The stars had never looked so beautiful. Ambassador Hannah Park stood at the observation window of the ESS Horizon, watching the swirling colors of hyperspace dance around the ship. In just a few hours, she would become the first human to address the Galactic Council. The thought made her heart beat faster, but she kept her face calm. A diplomat must never show fear. Behind her, Captain Sok-Yoon cleared his throat. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes that had seen too many battles. Ambassador, we will arrive at Atheron Prime in 3 hours. Is there anything you need? Hannah turned and smiled. Just a cup of tea, Captain, and perhaps some quiet time to review my speech one more time. Seok nodded and left the room. He understood. The weight of 8 billion souls rested on Hannah's shoulders today. Humanity had discovered faster-than-light travel only 50 years ago. In that short time, they had spread to dozens of worlds, built great cities among the stars, and dreamed of joining the galactic community. The Galactic Council governed 400 species across the Milky Way. They had maintained peace for 10,000 years. And they did not trust humans. Lieutenant Nari Bake entered the observation room with a steaming cup of tea. She was young, barely 25. With sharp eyes and quick hands. The Council has sent their greeting protocols, Ambassador. They seem formal. Formal is good, Hannah said, taking the cup. Formal means they are taking us seriously. But Nari's face showed worry. Some of the transmissions we intercepted suggest otherwise. There are Council members who believe humans are too dangerous. They call us the violent species. Hannah sipped her tea slowly. They are not entirely wrong, Nari. Our history is written in blood. We fought each other for thousands of years over land, over resources, over ideas. But we also learned. We grew. That is what I will tell them today. 3 hours later, the horizon dropped out of hyperspace above Atheron Prime. The planet was enormous, covered in golden clouds and massive floating cities. Thousands of ships filled the space around it, vessels of every shape and size from hundreds of different worlds. Hannah had never seen anything so magnificent. A shuttle carried her down to the council chamber. The building was a tower that reached into the clouds, made of white stone that glowed with inner light. Inside, the chamber was circular, with seats rising in tiers around a central platform. Hundreds of alien faces watched as Hannah walked to the center. Some were curious, some were hostile. Most were simply cold. Overlord Vrax sat on the highest throne. He was an insectoid creature, 3 meters tall, with 4 arms and eyes that reflected no light. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. You are the human called Hannah Park. You may speak. Hannah bowed respectfully. Thank you, Overlord. Honored members of the Galactic Council. I come before you not as a conqueror, but as a neighbor. Humanity wishes to join your great alliance, to learn from your wisdom, and to share what we have learned in return. A murmur passed through the chamber. Vrax raised one of his arms for silence. Your species is young. In barely 200 years, you went from primitive machines to starships. You spread across the stars like a disease. And your history? He paused, his mandibles clicking. Your history is nothing but war. You are correct, Hannah said. Her voice did not waver. We have fought many wars. We have committed terrible acts against each other. But we have also built great things. We have created art, music, and poetry that speaks to the soul. We have shown compassion to strangers and sacrificed ourselves for those we love. Our capacity for violence is matched only by our capacity for kindness. Counselor Drell, a slender being with silver skin and large dark eyes, leaned forward. His species, the Mulvari, were known for their empathy. You speak well, Ambassador, but words are easy. How can we trust that humans will not turn their weapons against us? Hannah met his gaze. You cannot. Not yet. Trust is built over time, through actions, not promises. We ask only for the chance to prove ourselves. Let us trade with you. Let us learn from you. Let us show you who we truly are. The session continued for hours. Hannah answered question after question, always patient, always calm. When it finally ended, Vrax dismissed her with a wave of his arm. The council will deliberate. You will have our answer soon. Hana returned to the horizon feeling hopeful. Captain Seo greeted her with a rare smile. You did well, Ambassador. Even I believed you. She laughed softly. Now we wait. But in the depths of the council tower, a different conversation was happening. Overlord Vrax stood before a smaller group of council members, his eyes burning with cold fire. The human speaks of peace, but I see the truth. They breed too fast. They spread too quickly. In 1,000 years, they will outnumber us all. We must act now while they are still weak. A reptilian counselor hissed in agreement. One ship. One ambassador. If we destroy them now and send the message to Earth, the humans will understand their place. Counselor Drell stepped forward. This is madness. She came in peace. If we kill her, we will start a war we cannot imagine. Brax turned on him, towering over the smaller being. There will be no war. The humans are primitive. They will mourn their dead and learn to fear us. This is how the galaxy has always worked. The strong rule, the weak obey. The vote was held in secret. Drell voted against, but he was alone. The decision was made. Hannah was walking through the corridor toward her shuttle when she felt the ship shake. Through the window, she saw a massive council warship to cloak, its weapons already glowing. Captain Seok's voice came through the communicator, urgent and broken. Ambassador, they are firing on us. Get to the escape pod. Now. But there was no time. The first blast tore through the horizon's hull. Hana was thrown against the wall as fire erupted around her. In her final moment, she thought of Earth, of the blue oceans and green forests, of her brother Dohun who had hugged her goodbye at the spaceport. Then there was only light. The transmission was sent to Earth within the hour. Every screen on the planet showed the same thing, the horizon exploding in silence, and Overlord Vrax's face appearing moments later. Let this be a lesson. Humanity will remain where they are. Any attempt to expand further will be met with the same response. 8 billion humans watched. 8 billion humans remembered. And 8 billion humans began to plan. The sun rose over Seoul, but no one noticed its beauty. Every street was silent. Every shop was closed. Every screen showed the same image, playing over and over again. The ESS horizon breaking apart in the cold darkness of space, and Ambassador Hana Park's final transmission cutting to static. Dohun Park sat alone in his small apartment, staring at the wall. His hands would not stop shaking. Just 3 weeks ago, he had stood at the spaceport with his sister. She had smiled at him, touched his cheek, and said, "When I come back, we will have dinner together. I will tell you about all the strange aliens I met." She was not coming back. The aliens had killed her. They had murdered her for daring to ask for peace. The tears came slowly at first, then faster. Dohun was not a soldier. He was an engineer who built bridges and towers. He had never held a weapon in his life. But as he watched the footage play again and again, something changed. The grief in his heart began to harden into something else, something darker. Across the world, the same transformation was happening. In Tokyo, millions gathered in the streets, holding candles and pictures of the Horizon's crew. In New York, the United Nations building was draped in black cloth. In Moscow, church bells rang for the dead. In Lagos, children who had never seen the stars cried for the woman who had tried to reach them. And in Geneva, the United Earth Council called an emergency session. Director Taeho Kim stood at the podium, his face carved from stone. He was 62 years old, a former soldier who had fought in the last great war on Earth, before humanity united. He had buried friends. He had seen cities burn. He had hoped those days were over. 3 days ago, he began, his voice echoing through the silent chamber. Ambassador Hana Park extended her hand in friendship to the Galactic Council. They responded by destroying her ship and killing every soul aboard. 247 men and women, scientists, diplomats, soldiers, all dead. Not in battle, not in self-defense. They were murdered because we dared to dream of a place among the stars. He paused, looking at the representatives from every nation on Earth. Their faces showed grief, anger, and something else. Determination. The Council believes we are weak, Taiho continued. They believe we will mourn our dead and return to our corner of the galaxy like obedient children. They are wrong. We did not unite as a species to cower before tyrants. We did not build starships to have our people slaughtered without consequence. He pressed a button on the podium. The screens behind him lit up with images of massive ships, strange weapons, and facilities hidden on distant moons. For 30 years, we have prepared for the possibility that the galaxy would not welcome us. Project Prometheus was created in secret, funded by every nation, built by our greatest minds. Today, I am authorizing its full activation. Admiral Jiho Kong stepped forward. She was a small woman with cold eyes and silver hair cut short. She had commanded Earth's defensive fleet for 15 years and had never lost a battle. Now, she would command its offensive force. Within 72 hours, we will have 10,000 warships ready for combat. Our crews are trained. Our weapons are tested. We are ready. A representative from Brazil raised his hand. Director, the Council has 400 species. They have millions of ships. How can we hope to defeat them? Taiho smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Because they have never faced an enemy like us. They have maintained peace for 10,000 years. Their battles are small, contained, fought with rules and traditions. We have no such limitations. We have spent our entire history learning how to destroy each other. Now, we will show them what that means. Dr. Yuna Shin stepped forward next. She was young for a lead scientist, only 35, but her eyes held the weight of the secrets she carried. Project Prometheus includes weapons the Council cannot imagine. Antimatter warheads capable of destroying entire fleets in a single blast. Reality-disrupting torpedoes that tear holes in space itself. Autonomous drones that number in the billions, each one capable of independent combat. And the Goliath Protocol. She hesitated. The room was absolutely silent. The Goliath Protocol is a planetary-scale electromagnetic pulse. When activated, it can disable every electronic system in an entire star system. Ships, stations, defense grids, everything. It will turn their greatest fortress into a graveyard of floating metal. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in human history, every nation agreed without debate. Earth would go to war. In the days that followed, the planet transformed. Factories that had built civilian ships now produced warships around the clock. Men and women who had never considered military service lined up at recruitment centers. Scientists worked without sleep, pushing technology to its limits. Artists created posters showing Hana Park's face with a single word beneath it. Remember. Do-hun was among those who volunteered. The recruitment officer looked at his file and frowned. You are an engineer, Mr. Park. You have no combat experience. She was my sister, Do-hun said quietly. I need to do this. The officer studied his face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Ground forces. You ship out in 2 days. On the 3rd day, the fleet gathered above Earth. 10,000 ships hung in the darkness, their hulls gleaming with weapons and armor. On the bridge of the flagship, the ESS Retribution, Admiral Jiho stood before a holographic display showing the path to Council space. Director Taiho's face appeared on the main screen. Admiral, Earth is watching. The colonies are watching. The galaxy is watching. Show them who we are. Jiho nodded once. We will. Before the fleet jumped to hyperspace, a final message was broadcast across every frequency the Council could receive. Director Taiho's voice was calm, almost gentle, which made his words even more terrifying. 3 days ago, you killed our ambassador. Her name was Hana Park. She came to you with open hands and an open heart. You answered with fire. You thought we would bow. You thought we would break. You were wrong. He paused. We are humanity. We have survived ice ages and plagues and wars that killed millions. We have faced extinction and clawed our way back every single time. You have awakened something that should have remained sleeping. And now, you will learn what happens when you harm one of our own." The message ended. 10,000 ships vanished into hyperspace, leaving Earth behind. In the council chamber on Atheron Prime, Overlord Vrax watched the transmission with his cold, unblinking eyes. Around him, counselors whispered in fear. For the first time in centuries, they did not know what was coming. But Counselor Drell knew. He had tried to warn them. He had begged them to show mercy. Now, as he watched the human fleet disappear from sensors, he whispered a single word that no one heard. Fools. The Velris system was supposed to be safe. It was a fortress, home to the Council's 3rd Defense Fleet, protected by orbital stations bristling with weapons and shields that had never been broken. 350 warships patrolled its borders, crewed by veterans who had served for centuries. They had received word that the humans were coming, and they were not worried. Primitive species always threatened war after a loss. They always backed down when they saw true power. They were still not worried when the first human ships appeared at the edge of the system. Only 50 vessels, small and fast, emerging from hyperspace in a scattered formation. The Council commander, a massive reptilian named Gorath, laughed when he saw them. "This is their great fleet. Send the forward squadrons. Destroy them quickly." 80 Council ships moved to intercept, their weapons powered up, targeting systems locked on, crews prepared for an easy victory. Then the trap was sprung. The 50 human ships had been a distraction. The real fleet emerged from hyperspace inside the Council formation, appearing directly between their ships without warning. Human vessels materialized in the middle of the enemy, so close that some Council ships crashed into each other trying to avoid them. Before anyone could react, the firing began. Antimatter warheads detonated in chains of white light. Each explosion consumed everything within 1,000 kilometers, vaporizing ships that had stood for millennia in heartbeats. The Council ships tried to return fire, but human drones swarmed them like insects, billions of tiny machines attaching to hulls, disabling weapons, cutting through armor. Chaos spread through the fleet as commanders screamed orders that no one could follow. Admiral Jiho watched from the bridge of the Retribution, her face expressionless. "Wolfpack formation," she said calmly. "Target their command ships first. Leave no survivors to report our tactics." The human fleet moved like a single organism. Ships worked together in groups of 5, protecting each other while concentrating fire on larger targets. When Council vessels tried to retreat, human ships pursued them relentlessly. When they tried to surrender, the drones tore them apart anyway. This was not a battle. It was an execution. 4 hours later, the Velris system was silent. The orbital stations were ruins, their wreckage drifting through space. Every Council ship had been destroyed. The planet below, a military colony of 2 million souls, sent frantic transmissions begging for mercy. Admiral Jiho ignored them. She had no interest in civilians. She had come for the fleet, and the fleet was gone. Human losses, 12 vessels. Council losses, 347. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light. Species that had laughed at humanity now watched the footage with growing terror. The violent species had come, and they were everything the stories had warned about. On Atheron Prime, Overlord Vrax convened an emergency war council. For the first time in his long life, his voice showed something other than contempt. "How is this possible? They are primitives. They have existed for barely a moment. How did they destroy an entire fleet?" Counselor Drell spoke carefully. "They spent their entire history fighting each other, Overlord. While we maintained peace, they refined the art of war. Every weapon, every tactic, every strategy, they developed it all against themselves. We taught them nothing. They learned everything on their own." A bird-like counselor named Varel stepped forward, his feathers trembling. "We must negotiate, offer them territory, resources, anything they want." Vrax's voice was cold again, his moment of uncertainty buried. "If we show weakness now, every species in the galaxy will see it. We will mobilize the full military. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon. We will crush them with numbers alone. For the first time in 1,000 years, The entire Galactic Council went to war. Meanwhile, aboard a troop transport heading toward the conquered system, Dohan sat with his squad in a cramped cargo bay. The other soldiers were a mix of nationalities and backgrounds, but they all wore the same gray uniform and carried the same look in their eyes. They had all lost someone. They had all volunteered for revenge. Sergeant Minho Lee was their leader, a short man with thick arms and a scar across his nose. He walked among them, checking equipment, offering words of encouragement. When he reached Dohan, he paused. "First combat drop, Park?" Dohan nodded, trying to hide his shaking hands. Minho smiled slightly. "You will do fine. Just stay close to the squad, follow orders, and remember why you are here." "My sister," Dohan said quietly. "I know. The ambassador." She was a brave woman. Minho put a hand on his shoulder. "Make her proud." The transport landed on the military colony 2 hours later. The Council forces had retreated to fortified positions, determined to fight to the last soldier. Dohan's squad was assigned to clear a communications center, cutting off the enemy's ability to coordinate. The fighting was brutal. Dohan had trained with weapons, but nothing prepared him for the reality of combat. The noise, the smoke, the screams of wounded soldiers from both sides. He moved through the corridors in a daze, firing at shapes that moved, ducking behind cover when explosions shook the walls. At one point, he found himself face to face with an alien soldier, a young being with wide, terrified eyes. They stared at each other for a frozen moment. Then Dohan pulled the trigger. Afterward, he sat against a wall, staring at his hands. They were covered in blood that was not his own. Sergeant Minho found him there and said nothing, just sat beside him in silence. "I thought I wanted this," Dohan whispered. "I thought revenge would make me feel better." Minho shook his head slowly. "Revenge is empty, Park. It always is. But this is not about revenge anymore." He gave him a significant father of Korea. "It is about making sure no one else has to lose a sister. No one else has to feel what you feel." Dohan looked at him. "Does it ever get easier?" "No," Minho admitted, "but you learn to carry it." Back on the Retribution, Admiral Jiho received a secret transmission from an unexpected source. Counselor Drell's silver face appeared on her private screen, his expression grave. "Admiral, I risked much to contact you. The Council is planning something terrible. They are preparing a planet-killer weapon called the Void Lance. It can destroy entire worlds. Their target is your colony on Kepler. 442b, 12 million humans." Jiho's jaw tightened. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I tried to stop the attack on your ambassador. I failed. I will not fail again. You humans are terrifying, but you are not evil. The Council. I no longer recognize what we have become." Jiho considered his words carefully. "What do you want in return?" "Only that you remember mercy when this is over. Remember that not all of us wanted this war." The transmission ended. Jiho sat in silence for a long moment, then opened a channel to Director Teho on Earth. His face appeared tired but alert. "Director, we have new intelligence. The Council is targeting Kepler, 442b with a planet killer. We need to change our strategy. We need to strike their heart before they can use it." Atheron Prime. "Atheron Prime," Jiho confirmed. "Cut off the head, and the body dies." The order was given. The human fleet regrouped, reinforced by fresh ships from Earth's colonies. Their next destination was the center of the galaxy, the seat of Council power. As the fleet prepared to jump, Admiral Jiho stood at the bridge window, looking at the stars. She thought of Ambassador Hana Park, the woman who had died believing in peace. Perhaps peace would come someday. But first, there would be fire. "Ambassador Park," she whispered to the darkness, "we are coming." 10,000 ships vanished into hyperspace, leaving nothing but silence behind. Atheron Prime had never known war. For 10,000 years, the Golden Planet had stood as the heart of galactic civilization, its floating cities untouched by violence, its people living in peace and luxury. The Council had built their empire from this world, spreading their influence across hundreds of systems. They had believed themselves invincible. Now, 50,000 warships filled the space around the planet, the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. Every species had sent their finest vessels. Every commander believed they would crush the human invasion and restore order to the galaxy. Overlord Vrox himself stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the endless formation of ships stretch toward the horizon. "Let them come," he said, his mandibles clicking with satisfaction. "We will end this here." The human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the system, 10,000 ships against 50,000. The odds seemed impossible. Council commanders laughed at their censors, already celebrating the victory to come. Then, Dr. Otso, Yuna Shin pressed a button aboard a small, hidden satellite on the far side of the system. The Goliath protocol activated. A wave of invisible energy swept through Atheron Prime's space, moving faster than light, touching every electronic system path. Shields flickered and died. Weapons went dark. Engines sputtered and failed. Targeting computers displayed nothing but static. Communication systems fell silent. In seconds, the greatest fleet in galactic history became 50,000 pieces of floating metal, blind and helpless. On Vrax's flagship, alarms screamed as power systems collapsed. Officers ran in every direction, trying desperately to restore function. The Overlord stood frozen, unable to comprehend what was happening. "What is this? What have they done?" No one could answer him. Admiral Jiho watched the chaos unfold with grim satisfaction. The Goliath protocol had worked exactly as designed. Now came the hard part. All ships, execute attack pattern Omega. Priority targets are command vessels. Secondary targets are anything that moves. The human fleet surged forward like a pack of wolves descending on wounded prey. Their weapons carved through the helpless Council ships, each volley destroying dozens of vessels. Some Council crews managed to restore partial power, bringing weapons online for brief moments before being overwhelmed. Others tried to flee on emergency thrusters, only to be hunted down by human drones. The battle was not a battle at all, it was a harvest. Vrax's flagship was one of the few vessels with enough shielding to resist the pulse partially. Its weapons came online slowly, firing back at the attackers. But it was alone now, surrounded by enemies, its escorts nothing but expanding clouds of debris. A human battlecruiser positioned itself directly in front of the bridge, its massive guns aimed at the Overlord's throne. "Surrender," Admiral Jiho's voice crackled over the damaged communication system. "You will be taken alive. Your crew will be spared. You have 10 seconds to respond." Vrax stared at the screen, his ancient mind struggling to process defeat. He had ruled for 3 centuries. He had crushed rebellions, silenced dissent, shaped the galaxy according to his will. And now, a species that had existed for barely a heartbeat was demanding his surrender. "I will never yield to primitives," he hissed. "Then your crew dies with you," Jiho replied. 3 seconds. An officer grabbed Vrax's arm. "Overlord, please. Think of the crew. Think of the civilians on the planet below." For a long, terrible moment, Vrax said nothing. Then, slowly, his massive form seemed to shrink. "Cease fire. I surrender." The fighting in space ended, but the war was not over. Ground forces still held the planet, concentrated around the Council Tower, where the government had retreated. Dohun's squad was among those assigned to breach the building and capture the remaining leadership. The transport descended through golden clouds, shaking with turbulence and occasional weapons fire from surface defenses. Sergeant Minho briefed them one final time. "Intel says Vrox is being brought down from his ship. Our job is to secure the Council chamber before he arrives. Expect heavy resistance. These are their best soldiers defending their most important building. Stay sharp." Dohun checked his weapon for the 10th time. His hands were steady now. The boy who had cried in his apartment felt like a different person, someone from another life. He had become something else in the weeks of fighting. Something harder. They hit the ground running, moving through the streets of the capital city toward the tower. Alien civilians watched from windows, their faces showing fear and confusion. Dohun ignored them. They were not his enemy. Only soldiers were. The tower's entrance was guarded by elite troops in heavy armor. The fighting was intense, closer and more brutal than anything Dohun had experienced. Squad members fell around him, their names echoing in his mind as he pushed forward. Minho was everywhere, shouting orders, pulling wounded soldiers to cover, leading from the front. They breached the main doors and fought their way up through level after level. Each floor brought new enemies, new obstacles, new deaths. By the time they reached the council chamber, Dohun's squad had been reduced to half strength. But they had made it. The chamber doors were sealed. Minho placed explosive charges while the surviving soldiers took defensive positions. "On my mark," he said, his voice hoarse from shouting. 3, 2, 1. The explosion tore the doors apart. They rushed inside, weapons raised, expecting a last desperate fight. Instead, they found Counselor Drell standing alone in the center of the room, his arms raised in surrender. Around him, council guards lay unconscious, their weapons removed. "I disabled the security systems," Drell said calmly. "I gave you the access codes. And I have neutralized the guards. The council leadership is in the chamber behind me, unarmed and waiting." Minho approached him carefully. "Why would you betray your own people?" Drell's silver face showed something like sadness. "Because my people betrayed themselves. We killed an innocent woman who came offering peace. We deserved whatever followed." The inner chamber was smaller, filled with frightened counselors from dozens of species. They had spent millennia making decisions that shaped the galaxy. Now they huddled together like children, waiting to learn their fate. Overlord Vrox was brought in by human soldiers, his wrists bound with energy cuffs. He saw Dohun standing by the wall and stopped. His cold eyes studied the young human with contempt. "You," he said. "I see it in your face. You are related to the ambassador. Her brother, perhaps." Dohun's grip on his weapon tightened. "Her name was Hana Park." "She was a fool," Vrax continued, his voice dripping with venom. "She thought she could change the galaxy with pretty words. She thought we would accept your violent species as equals. She was wrong. And you," he gestured with his bound hands, "you prove my point. Look at what you have done. Look at the death you have brought. You are exactly what I said you were. Savages. Destroyers. Monsters." The chamber fell silent. Every eye turned to Dohun. His finger rested on the trigger. One twitch, and the creature who had ordered his sister's death would be gone. Justice would be served. But he did not fire. Instead, Dohun lowered his weapon slowly. He walked toward Vrax until they stood face to face. The human and the overlord, the victim and the executioner. "My sister came to you with an open hand," Dohun said quietly. "She believed in peace. She believed that different species could learn from each other, could grow together, could build something beautiful. You answered with fire, and yes, we answered with war. But this is not who we wanted to be." He stepped back, his eyes never leaving Vrax's face. "This is what you made us." Outside the tower, the sounds of battle faded. Council ships drifted powerless in orbit. The great fleet that was supposed to protect Atheron Prime was nothing but debris. The human flag rose over the council spire, visible from every corner of the capital city. On the bridge of the Retribution, Admiral Jiho received transmissions from across the galaxy. Not threats. Not demands. Pleas for mercy. Offers of alliance. Promises of cooperation. The war was over. The question now was, what would come next? Chiho looked at the ruined world below and thought of Hana Park. She had died hoping for peace. Perhaps now, finally, there was a chance to build it. 1 year had passed since the fall of Atheron Prime. The galaxy was still healing from the wounds of war. Planets that had known only peace for millennia now bore the scars of battle. Ships drifted in silent graveyards between the stars. Millions had died, both human and alien, their names recorded in memorials across 100 worlds. But from the ashes, something new. The Galactic Council was gone. In its place, humanity proposed a different kind of government, the Galactic Assembly. Not a hierarchy where the strong ruled and the weak obeyed, but a gathering of equals where every species had a voice. It was a radical idea, one that many thought impossible, but after what humanity had shown them, no one was willing to refuse. The first session of the assembly was held on Atheron Prime, in the same chamber where Overlord Vrax had once sat in judgment. The seats were rearranged now, forming a circle with no throne at the top. Representatives from 300 species filled the room, watching as Director Taeho Kim took his place at the center. He was older now, his hair completely gray, his face lined with the weight of the decisions he had made. But his voice was still strong, still clear, still carrying the authority of a species that had proven itself in the worst possible way. 1 year ago, he began, humanity went to war. We did not want it. We did not seek it. It was forced upon us by an act of cruelty that we could not ignore. Our response was terrible. We proved that we are capable of destruction beyond anything this galaxy had ever seen. Many of you watched in fear. Many of you expected us to become the new tyrants, the new overlords, ruling through power and terror. He paused, looking around the chamber at the alien faces watching him with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. We could have done that. We had the power. We had the weapons. We had every reason to take revenge for what was done to us. But that is not who we are. That is not who we want to be. He spread his hands wide. We did not come to the stars to conquer. We came to explore, to learn, to grow. The Council saw our history and called us violent. They were not wrong. We have been violent. But we have also learned from our violence. We built laws to protect the weak from the strong. We created systems to ensure that power was shared, not hoarded. We developed ideals that said every life had value. Every voice deserved to be heard. His voice rose. Today we offer those ideals to the galaxy. The Galactic Assembly will not be ruled by any single species. There will be no overlords, no hierarchies, no masters and servants. Every member will have equal standing. Every dispute will be resolved through discussion, not destruction. We made war because we had no choice. Now we make peace because we do. The applause started slowly, then grew until it filled the chamber. Not all voices joined in. Old fears and grudges did not fade easily, but enough did. Enough to show that something had changed, that the galaxy was ready for a new beginning. After the ceremony, Counselor Drell approached Director Taeho. The Molvari had been appointed as the first non-human ambassador to Earth, a symbol of the cooperation between species. His silver face showed something like admiration. A beautiful speech, he said. I hope the galaxy deserves it. Taeho smiled wearily. So do I. But if they do not, at least we tried. Drell nodded slowly. I voted against the attack on your ambassador. I want you to know that. I tried to stop it. I know, Taeho said. That is why you are here. We do not blame those who sought peace, only those who chose war. On Earth, Dr. Unishin stood in a vast underground facility, watching as the last components of Project Prometheus were dismantled. The antimatter warheads were disarmed. The drone factories were shut down. The reality-disrupting torpedoes were sealed in containment that would never be opened. She had built these weapons knowing they might be used. She had activated the Goliath Protocol, knowing it would lead to the deaths of millions. Those decisions haunted her dreams, appearing as faces she had never seen but knew were real. A young assistant approached her. Dr. Shin, are you sure about this? If there is another threat, Yuna shook her head slowly. These weapons are too dangerous to exist. They make war too easy, too clean, too tempting. If we keep them, someday someone will use them again, and maybe next time, it will be us who strikes first. She turned to look at a locked vault in the corner of the room. Inside, sealed behind encryption that only she could break, were the blueprints for everything they had built. Just in case. The galaxy was changing. But humanity had learned to hope for the best while preparing for the worst. Admiral Jiho Kang walked through the streets of Seoul, wearing civilian clothes for the first time in decades. She had retired from military service the day the assembly was founded. Her work was done. The fleet that had conquered the galaxy was now patrolling trade routes and rescuing ships in distress, its weapons dormant, its crews learning the arts of peace. She stopped at a small memorial park near the river. In the center stood a simple stone monument listing the names of every crew member who had died aboard the ESS Horizon. 247 names carved in granite, starting with Captain Suk Yoon and ending with Ambassador Hana Park. Chio saluted slowly, holding the gesture for a long moment. "We did it, Ambassador. The war is over. The peace you wanted is beginning. I hope it was worth the cost." The wind whispered through the trees, carrying the sound of children playing in a nearby park. Life went on. The dead were remembered, but the living had to keep living. Dohun Park returned to civilian life with difficulty. The war had changed him, carved away the gentle engineer and left something harder in its place. He found work on a reconstruction project, helping to rebuild worlds that had been damaged in the fighting. It felt right. Using his hands to create instead of destroy. He carried a photograph of Hana in his pocket, pulling it out sometimes during quiet moments. In the image, she was smiling, her eyes bright with hope and wonder, standing in front of the horizon on the day she left Earth forever. One day, his work brought him to Atheron Prime. The capital city was still being repaired, its floating towers slowly returning to their former beauty. Dohun was assigned to help construct a memorial in the central plaza, a place to honor all those who had died in the war, from every species. When the design was revealed, Dohun fell silent. In the center of the plaza stood a statue of his sister. She was cast in silver and gold, her hand extended forward in a gesture of greeting, her face showing the same calm determination she had worn during her final address to the council. At her feet, an inscription was carved in 100 languages. She came offering friendship. Let her sacrifice remind us what happens when that hand is refused. Dohun stood before the statue for hours, watching as alien families walked past, stopping to read the words, looking up at the human woman who had tried to prevent all of this. Some of the children pointed and asked their parents who she was. The answers varied, but the meaning was always the same. She was the reason. She was the warning. She was the hope. A small child from a species Dohun did not recognize approached the statue and placed a flower at its base. The child looked up at him with wide, curious eyes. "Is she your family?" the child asked in broken but understandable speech. Dohun nodded, not trusting himself to speak. "My parents said she was very brave," the child continued. "They said she wanted everyone to be friends. Is that true?" Dohun knelt down to look at the child directly. Yes, that is exactly what she wanted. She believed that different people could learn from each other, that we could all be better together. The child considered this carefully. "I think she was right. My parent says humans are scary, but you do not seem scary to me." Dohun smiled, the first genuine smile he had managed in months. "We can be scary when we have to be, but mostly, we just want what everyone wants. A safe home. People who care about us. A chance to see beautiful things." The child nodded seriously, as if this was profound wisdom that needed to be remembered. Then they ran off to rejoin their parent, waving goodbye. Dohun stood and looked at the statue one final time. The sun was setting behind it, casting long shadows across the plaza. For a moment, in the golden light, it almost seemed like Hana was moving, like she was about to step down from her pedestal and give him one of her gentle, teasing lectures about hope and patience and believing in the goodness of others. "You were right," he whispered. "You were always right. I just wish you could have seen it." The stars were coming out above Atheron Prime, the same stars that shone over Earth, the same stars that connected every world in the galaxy. Somewhere out there, ships were traveling between systems, carrying people of every species to places they had never been. Trade was flowing. Friendships were forming. The galaxy was learning, slowly and painfully, how to be better. It would take generations. There would be setbacks, conflicts, moments when the old hatred tried to rise again. But the foundation had been laid. The first step had been taken. And at the heart of it all, forever frozen in silver and gold, stood a woman with an extended hand, reminding everyone who passed by that peace was always possible. All they had to do was reach for it.